Yeah. Yeah, after this week, after we switch to the portable board,
I feel like we're all like junior high students right now. We're all in the same room, but nobody's talking to each other.
It's the calm before the storm.
Always. I always walk in there and I'm like, the least you could do is like say hi to each other as they walk in, and they're like, eh. Joseph, how you doing?
Doing good. You know, getting over a little whatever this is, COVID-19, flu, cold, whatever.
Combination of both. Hey, Joel.
what's up?
Not much. How's your dog?
She's good. She's got a ear infection, and according to the vet, she is overweight. So that's fun too.
That's always fun. I have 4 dogs, so we fight that overweight battle all the time.
Yeah, well, and what's just funny is because this dog has lately been stealing the other dog's food. So, like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense why she'd be overweight.
Yeah, that'll do it. You and I just became Facebook friends this week, so I guess it prioritizes you on my like timeline, so I see like everything. So if you're like, why does this guy I don't really know ask about my dog? That's why.
Oh no, my Facebook profile is completely public too. So
Your dog, a floppy-eared dog?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, I've always had dogs with floppy ears, and you've got to really watch the ears to keep them healthy.
Yeah. Well, she's 3 years old. This is the first time we've had any issue with her. So hopefully it's not a reoccurring thing. That would suck.
To be fair to your dog, I mean, we're all going to come out of this thing overweight. So
That's so true.
That's the 19 in COVID-19. It's how many pounds you're going to gain while you're sitting at your house.
It's the proximity.
I actually lost weight, but that was That's because I haven't been eating fast food.
Okay.
Been cooking all my meals at home. Whew. Maggie, I see you've figured out how to do virtual backgrounds.
Sure did. Sure did.
I'm so disappointed. My computer webcam is apparently not high quality enough to participate in the fun.
Bummer. I
It-
feel like this is the only way I'm going to get through all the Zoom meetings is like picking different backgrounds. So
I need to go hang. I can do it if I have a green screen, is what my computer tells me. So
just go get a green screen, Joel. Like,
Yeah.
that's all you need.
Yeah.
Or you could just like hang up a sheet behind you and like put pictures on it. Like, I don't know, you could get creative.
I need a felt board is what I need. Old school.
That's right. I like it. Yeah.
Or just paint the sheet green. You got a green screen right there.
Oh yeah, there you go. Surely there's like a green bed sheet somewhere I could go buy.
No, not right now.
Like green on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if you could buy it right now.
I'm
But
sure
it was online.
I'm sure Walmart would have it. They're still open. I'm really thankful that my Zoom count is much lower this week than it was last week. I think I hit 10 by Wednesday. I hit 10 Zoom meetings.
Well,
Joseph hooking me up with the green sheet. Joseph, you asked about video games last night out of nowhere and then didn't respond to me.
Yeah, you look like you had like a TV to the next to your computer because there was like something in I don't know. So I was like, oh man, I hope he's over there like playing some MLB The Show or something. Totally what I would be doing in that situation if I didn't think that people were going to be asking me.
The PlayStation is hooked up right here.
Oh, okay. All right.
What was flashing on my face? I have a second monitor that's super bright, and so yeah. Anytime I had it not on my black background, it's just like, yeah. I was like, why does he think I'm playing video games? How's everyone doing? Hanging in there?
yeah.
My husband ordered me a green screen. It was like $20 on Amazon, and I'm really excited about it.
Clearly need to get one of these.
Yeah, I figure we're gonna be doing this for a while, and so it was totally worth it. Now it's not gonna be here for 2 weeks because it's not a priority shipping.
Yeah.
But still, I am so excited. I have found all these fun backgrounds, so I'm hoping it'll bring some excitement to the game.
My wife's grandparents, we Zoomed with them last night, and they said they got on Amazon to order toilet paper, and it told them it would be here sometime between May and June. Oh my gosh.
I like the cookies, Maggie.
Yeah.
Nice. Dorian, what up?
Hi, everyone.
I'm gonna go refill the Diet Dr. Pepper, and then we can get started.
Maggie, I was okay with the space, but the cookies, that's making me hungry. Like, I don't have any sweets in my house right now.
That's really
Trying to figure
sad.
out if that's like an essential thing or not. I don't think it counts. But
For me, it's an essential thing, 100%. Yeah, I can send you a recipe, Joseph. So that way, if you have the right ingredients, you can just make up some cookies and you'll be good to go.
that's
Because
the
that's
plan
how
for
I
dinner
like.
tonight. Yeah, it's chili with like, I just got some ground beef and some spices, and I'm like, I'll just make chili.
I like that. I like that. A bunch of people at Arapahoe, somebody had made this AUMC quarantine canteen. And so like we're all posting our dinners and different recipes and we're all sharing it. And it's been like super awesome. And also like, I'm a little jealous of some people's meals. I'm like, okay, when all of this is over, like I'm coming to your house and you're going to remake that so I can eat it.
We
and
did the
enjoy it.
same thing at the colony. One of our members just randomly started this Facebook page, and it's like staying home or something like that, like quarantine, I don't know. And they've been sharing all these recipes, and I'm like, okay, as soon as this is all over, you gotta let your youth pastor come over and you gotta feed me, because I'm like, man, y'all are eating real good.
Yeah. Where did Maggie go? Maggie, that's why the party board is such a good fundraiser at Arapahoe.
Oh yeah, I've heard lots about the party board and lots
Yeah.
about the different wonderful
Yeah,
meals that come out of the party board.
yeah.
I'm just impressed that I have a tub of cookie dough that I have not once dug into with a spoon. The willpower is strong with me.
Wow, Joel, that would be gone by now.
Mainly because I keep forgetting. Like I was in the refrigerator earlier. I went, oh yeah, later. I just keep putting it off. Maybe. Yeah. The other thing is I don't want salmonella in the midst of COVID-19. So, yeah. What's the So is Charles really gonna nominate Maggie for a devotion and then not show up?
No.
We'll give it 2 more minutes and we just start with you, Maggie, if that's cool. Oh, by the way, if any of you haven't yet, check out the NT Wright article on time.com, or you can find it on my Facebook, but super good read.
I think I clipped that for watching later or for reading later. I clipped another article that said why you should ignore all that coronavirus inspired productivity pressure. And I'm gonna read that.
Nice. Maggie.
This feels more appropriate.
That's awesome. I'll just go grab some matches and then I can have that same effect.
Yeah, I was going to say the cookies are as big as your face, but the fire is as tall as you are.
Cool, Maggie. Why don't you lead us off?
Awesome. So for those of you, like I think I know at least of everyone. I know that that's how a lot of our world is. And so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Maggie Proshek. I am the pastor of children, youth, and families at Arapahoe. But I don't know about you guys, and I've been talking a lot about this with different friends, both in ministry and people who do other things. And, you know, I've been seeing a lot of really wonderful ways that people have been sharing grace with other people in the midst of all of this, just giving them the space that we're all figuring this out, right? But also, I think what's so important is giving ourselves a lot of that grace as well. because I know for me, in the midst of all of this, I am constantly thinking I'm not doing enough, that there is something I could be doing. How else can I be connecting with my youth? How else can I be connecting with the parents? What else, like, I just always feel like there's more that can be done. And so I think it's so important for us to be giving ourselves that same amount of grace that we're giving to other people in the midst of all this, because this is just totally new and uncharted territory that we're living in right now, both personally and professionally. And so, and I've been talking a lot with my covenant group. I'm the only one in my covenant group that doesn't have children. And so I've been talking a lot with them that for them that do have kids, like, it's incredible that they're becoming teachers and that they have their kids now 24/7, and they're also doing their work. And so just being mindful of people's situations and everything. So all that being said, I just think it's so okay for us right now to be okay with being frustrated and upset about the unknown, and just kind of sitting in that, because as time has gone on, I've found that I'm actually really excited about the new things that we're doing. Like, I just got done with our staff meeting, and I'm just so excited for what's coming up for Holy Week for us. We have some really incredible new things coming up, and the things we're doing. And so I just think being able to sit in that uneasy space that we're in is really important. So a couple things I wanted to share with you guys. The band Switchfoot, John Foreman, he's been posting videos on Instagram every day, just playing videos, and he's one of my favorite artists and the words that he writes. And so I wanted to read some of the lyrics to you all, because it really just spoke to me and really just allowed me to feel that grace for myself. And so I just want to invite you guys to just take a deep breath and just kind of find yourself in a space where you're comfortable and can let these words kind of sink into your heart and into your soul, and let them just kind of let you be. So it's okay to fear. It's okay when you feel small, and you're okay right here. It's okay when you feel nothing at all, and it's okay to find out that what you thought you had ain't what you got. And it's okay to doubt, to learn you think isn't what you thought. We're always in motion, like the winds, the tides, the ocean, and every day I'm born again. I wake up, I feel that second wind. So we're gonna be all right. I've seen the look in your eye, we're gonna be all right. Just take a look at the sky, we're gonna be all right. So I just hope you can see the ways that God is moving, both in your life and in ministry and personally, and just know that we're gonna get through this together, and that each and every day is a new day. And so it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to be frustrated, because I know that I have felt all those things in the midst of all of this. And I think giving ourselves that room to be okay with all of that is important. And then I found this prayer in the Common Prayer Book. If you don't have this, this is a really cool thing to have. And so I just want to close us in prayer, if that's all right with y'all. So let's pray. Good and gracious God, we just give you thanks for this opportunity to come together, to come be with your disciples, and hear from each other and learn from each other and support one another. And just, God, we give you thanks for the call on our life, to be your hands and feet, to share your love and grace with others. And so, God, we just ask you to help us to unclutter our life, to organize ourselves in the direction of simplicity. Lord, teach us the ways to listen to our hearts and to welcome the change instead of fearing it. Lord, we give you these stirrings inside of us. We give you our discontent, our restlessness, our doubt, our despair, and we give you all the longings we hold inside. And God, we pray that we can listen to these signs of change, of growth, and help us to listen seriously and follow where they lead through the breathtaking empty space of an open door. Amen.
Thanks, Maggie. I really appreciate that. Great idea from Charles to ask you to do it. And so I think at the end of the meeting, we can let you choose who's next. So I didn't have much in the way of like order for this meeting, but I know that it's been helpful for me in my ministry hearing what's going well for you guys. So I definitely want to cover that topic. And then the other thing I want to hear about is how you guys are approaching Holy Week and all that. And so I know that there was already one really great resource sent out through the Facebook page. I'm blanking on her name, from University Park, that put that together. Like Stations of the Cross and a scavenger hunt for that. If you haven't seen it, I think you guys should check it out. Yeah, so let's just start with what's been working well, what ways we can celebrate ministry happening this past week. I'll jump in and go first. We have been doing like a game night on Sunday nights, and so we did trivia, and sounds pretty straightforward, but like trying to figure out how you buzz in to be the first person to answer was a unique thing. We kind of learned on the fly. I was like, we used the chat feature and had them type in the word buzz, and so whoever got the word in first got the answer, and then we kept going down the list from there. As we stayed on the same question, what we learned we have to do is say, like, send a start here and ask them to not send anything for a few seconds and let me finish reading the question, so that then everybody has a fair shot and people aren't just sending buzz in the whole time. But it worked really well. I looked up and we had already been at it for like an hour and a half, and I was like, okay, we probably need to shut this down. So, but it went super well. I used a bunch of trivia that I had through the Sidekick app, if any of you use that. And so I was able to, put some, fancy graphics on the screen, but I think it's something that translates well to anything that you find on the internet, trivia wise and stuff like that. But so that's been going really well. And then I'm excited. We're gonna use the Holy Listening Stones in our small groups this week and see how that goes. It had been something I've been wanting to implement already in our small groups, and so this is just a perfect time to take advantage of it. So excited for that.
So we met again this past Sunday on Zoom, and it's just so interesting. We had the same exact amount we did on our first Sunday, but it was like half of them were completely different kids. So I'm just trying to find a way to capture them all like at once. But it was really great because one of my girls, that she comes mainly for the community. She's struggling a lot with her faith, but she keeps coming for the community. And so I've really been worried about her in this time. And so she was able to get on. And so I was really, really happy to see her. I got this one really fun game off of that youth ministry website. Can't remember what it's called, sorry, but it's 3-year-old Pictionary, and it was a lot of fun. They're like little drawings done by 3-year-olds, and you have to guess what it is, and they were really funny, and the kids really enjoyed it. So if you want that, I can email it to you. It's free, so you can download it on your own, but I can email it to you if you want. It's just a PowerPoint presentation, but the games have been a lot of fun. The kids have been really enjoying that, and so I figured for this Sunday, we're just gonna do a game night and everything like that. And so I'll maybe I'll just try to post it on the thing or whatever. But yeah, so it's been going really well, but just that struggle of figuring out how to capture all of them. Yes, download youth ministry, correct. But things have been going well, and happy about it, and it's been good.
I think that means you're up, Bart.
No, I was just practicing your buzzer implementation.
I can go. something that we have found out in the midst of all of this is that our older kids really can't stand to be with our younger kids in a Zoom call. The younger ones are just super distracting, and constantly sending stuff in the chat or muting and unmuting themselves. And my husband tells me apparently there's a way where you can mute everybody and they can't unmute themselves unless you give them permission. So it is the same in real life. Because another blessing in all of this is I have found out why my older kids aren't coming back as regularly, because they just really have a hard time with the younger kids. And so we try to split them up as much as we can during Bible study on Sunday night. So sometimes it comes down to, who do I have on hand to help as far as adults and stuff like that, or do I even have enough kids to split up? Because we have a good sized youth group when they're all there. But that has been something that we have realized. So we kind of changed our schedule, and I brought it up to staff this morning, and they were really receptive to it. So Thursdays is going to be our 6th through 9th graders, and then Friday nights are going to be our 10th through 12th graders, and then Sunday's just going to be a game night for everyone to come together so they can be there if they want. And Thursday and Friday will be more study driven, where they can ask hard questions and kind of be more open and honest, and be around more students their age. So that's kind of something that I have found in this. But my biggest thing is I stole part of my ideas from Joel, let's be honest, because I saw that you were splitting up your kids even on Zoom calls, and so I stole it from you. But my main issue right now is I'm trying to find ways to play games with them, and there's been a few games that I've gotten and I've stolen from some of y'all, and that's been really helpful. But if you have any other ideas, I'd love your help with that, because Sunday night's going to be most game driven, and so I want to be able to play some fun stuff with them. So if y'all have any ideas that y'all can pass along, I'd really appreciate it. And then the biggest thing too is there's so much talk around the virus right now, but at the same time, I know that some of my kids are masking their anxiety, but I'm trying to figure out how to best discuss that with them as a whole. So if y'all have any ideas of how y'all been able to have those really hard talks with your students, I'd appreciate your thoughts on that, because that is something that Adam and I talked about the other day. Was we want to find a way for them to talk openly and honestly about what they're feeling without feeling like they're going to be judged at all. And I just don't really know how to start those conversations very well. So I'd appreciate that help.
Austin, I think the listening stones that Joel mentioned are really good for that. And if you don't know what they are, there's just different images on them, and we can find a way to get them to you. But basically, they're just different images, and you invite for your students to pick one, and then they just get to say like why they picked it, and so it's a conversation starter that way, and it really ends up being really authentic and honest, and so that might be the best way for you to do that, rather than trying to force like, okay, everybody, what are you feeling through this whole COVID-19 thing, but that way it's just them being able to speak openly about what they're feeling in that current situation. So that might be the best way to do it.
Yeah, that would actually be really helpful. Joel said he'll send them to me. We've emailed back and forth, so you've got my email. But yeah, that would be awesome. Oh, thanks, Joel. Just got it. Yeah, so just any of those kind of tidbits are nice. But we're figuring out how to do this. I did not realize that my soul would be so weary in all of this. And I'm still in school at the same time. So it is being in seminary online is not fun at all. And I just want to throw my computer across the room sometimes. So, but other than that, we're making it over in the colony. Make it till we make it, at least.
We are, I'm working to put together some webinars on crisis counseling. I've been trying to figure out, what resources are needed that aren't just going to duplicate some of the ways that we're finding to to facilitate study. And so just hang in there. Probably the week after Easter, we'll start doing some webinars with some of our trusted folks on anxiety and grief counseling. And I don't want to be, party crasher, but I think we already are in this space where everybody knows a celebrity that's been affected, and we're slowly turning the corner where everyone knows someone who's been affected. And so that is, I think in the next 2 weeks to a month, that's going to move even closer to home, where now it's immediate family who are affected and even experiencing death and just some greater isolation. So that won't be the end all be all. But I just want you, that's kind of the direction with my office right now, is to try to provide resources that way, because I think everybody's covered on how to do online Bible study and online hangouts and things like that. So we're going to try to step into that resourcing opportunity. The other thing that can help with that is, we have struggled for so many years in doing any sort of studies that require commitment out of our young people. And now I think we're in an incredible position to ask that, especially of our older youth. And so to have a 4-week or 6-week study that we launch that is cumulative, that builds on itself. I don't know if there's ever been a better time to actually, instead of it being, amorphic, to ask of that. And there's a good chance that those grief and anxiety conversations will come out in those smaller groups, even though they're designed to deal with certain topics. And I'm working with David right now. We're starting a 10th through 12th grade vocational discernment study, a 4-week study. I'm happy to throw the resource that I'm using for that. I've whittled it down to 4 weeks. It's a 13-step piece, but we've collapsed that one in quite a bit. But I'm curious. We haven't started it yet, but I wonder if a lot of those anxieties are going to present themselves as young people explore vocational discernment, calling, and even what do I want to do with my life, and how do I know what God wants for me to do with my life. So even if it's a 6-week study that's specific, that's cumulative, that builds, those may be the ways that these things come out in expression, because there's the trust and the bond around gathering around a certain topic. So that may be another way to call out and differentiate those studies with older and younger, is to throw an additional study in. We're going to do a study on how do I figure out what I want to do with my life? Does God care? Or a Bible study or a book study or something like that. So.
Yeah, I know with the CLD is also working on bringing some resources to the forefront around pastoral care for children and youth. That's something that Emma's working on. She's gotten Leanne Hadley, who does the Time for Children and Time for Youth, to agree to come and do some pastoral care conversations with children and youth. And so we're going to be releasing a lot of that stuff after Easter as well. So we'll get you more information on that when we have more of a time frame, but be looking for those resources as well.
I just saw the question about, does anybody have any thoughts on how you're going to handle the end of the year stuff? We talked about that this morning. One thought was doing like a graduation parade, which is kind of what we talked about last week in this group. And so that's something that's crossed our mind. And then also we are going to be like promoting our seniors on our newsletter that goes out every week. And then we were going to try to do like a video slideshow of them at some point in May or June, kind of like what we would do on Senior Sunday, even though we can't meet. So those are a few ideas that we're doing at the colony, but I'm sure your seniors are struggling as much as mine are with kind of where their hearts are right now, that they can't have the things that they should be entitled to, that they're not being able to do those things. So
after our conversation here last week as well about seniors, we started talking about what we were going to do for them, and we decided to set up a Google Drive where members of the church can submit videos or like letters, either to the whole class or to a specific senior, just so that the seniors are hearing from the congregation in the way that they normally would on Senior Sunday. So that's something that we just started and are working on right now, just to give them something and let them know that the congregation is thinking about them and cheering them on and praying for them still.
I don't know if anybody saw what Vanderbilt did for their convocation. They canceled Friday. Vanderbilt canceled their convocation ceremonies, and what they're doing is deferring to create a special celebration in May 21 for those that graduated in May 20. So it's a 1-year anniversary along with a special ceremony and recognition. And I don't think that could replace any of these things that are happening now. But what would it look like if, if those seniors were invited back to go on the trips that they've missed, to be honored in a 1-year anniversary? What's life been like? If it was a panel discussion in front of your congregation, hey, well, how was the first year? I think conceptually it's a really interesting piece. You can look at Vanderbilt's press release to see what they're doing on that. It could have some implications. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool.
Chris Wilterdink, who kind of started that conversation with us last week, also published kind of an article talking about these things with some other people. I know I've shared that article to the Facebook page. If anybody wants me to send it to them, I'm sure I can dig it back up and find it. But it had some good stuff in there. Along the lines that what Sarah was talking about, like the videos. I don't know how it works. I've only participated in it for someone else. I've never been the person to organize it. But there's this thing called Flipgrid. I've used that for. I use that for an old friend who's had a birthday coming up. She was turning 16, and so sending a message out through that. I don't know if it's something that would work in that context, but it seems like it would. People can send video messages and stuff, and it all collects for that person in one page for them to then go look and listen, is what I believe is how it works. So. Well, anything else that's been working well, going well the last couple of weeks? If not, we can jump in to talk about Holy Week and Easter and any ideas that you guys have going forward for that stuff.
Right behind the curve on what people already are doing with Zoom, but I did the small group breakout rooms for the first time last week, and that seemed to work really well to counteract that same junior high, senior high thing. And I know my small group leaders were thankful just to have a space where they had voice and felt very similar to what I've trained them to do. So I'm looking forward to using those again.
Yeah, we used the breakout room function in Zoom in confirmation on Sunday, and it worked really well. We're going to be using that a lot more, I think. You're able to move people around, so we were able to put adults in the rooms too, and so it worked really well for us.
Is there that's a feature I haven't even dived in to like look and see how. Is there a certain level of account you have to have with Zoom in order for that to work?
Just paid, I think it's
Just
the pro or premium.
Okay.
But you have to go. You can't do it on the fly. You have to go back into the settings on the computer or in the account, and there's something you have to click to open it up. But then it's on the bottom of the screen. It says breakout rooms, and you can set them, and then like Sarah's saying you can just assign them out, or you can even do it randomly, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a way to pre-assign participants as well when you're scheduling a meeting, but I don't know how, I haven't used that function, so I don't know how it works. But it has a lot of different ways, and then you can like message each group, so it'll show up at the top like, hey, 5 minutes left, and then you can pull everyone back into the big group and all that kind of stuff. So we're still playing with it a little bit, but so far it worked for us.
And can't you, as the host, jump back and forth between the different breakout rooms? Because
Yeah,
we
you can.
tried playing with it a little bit in staff, and Adam was able, as the church host, to be able to pop in our different breakout rooms. I just don't understand how it works, but it could be like groundbreaking for youth ministry to have those.
I found also it was not, I had a kid that jumped out, and because when they jumped back into the call, I had to like be there to push them back into the group. So you just have to kind of watch that. But yeah, you are able to jump back and forth and move it around.
Also, just FYI, if you're gonna go ahead and get the premium Zoom or like the step up, whatever from the free, that's what we bought. And my husband and I just went ahead and paid for it for the year because it ended up being cheaper that way. And then you are still, for the rest of the year, whether or not we get in sooner or later, then you at least still have this online possibility to do different things with your students or your adults or whatever. So just FYI, if you're gonna pay for it, it is cheaper to do it just for the year, and then you don't think about it ever again until the next year. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Have any of you thought how you might still use Zoom like past all of this? Because like at Arapahoe, we're talking a lot about the things that we've implemented, how we're gonna maybe still incorporate some of those things. And so I was thinking that for like youth, we don't meet on a regular basis on Wednesdays, but I thought it might be a good option for our kids to have that on Wednesday nights to gather. Because I know that some of them want that, but it's just not like super. Again, like Boston was saying, like I just don't know that I'd be able to get the adults that I need, for the numbers or whatever. So have any of y'all thought how y'all might continue to use this platform?
I haven't fleshed it all out yet, but like one of my small group leaders and I kind of just threw the idea out there is like, how could we have a hybrid of Zoom and in person, for the person that's on their way to, practice, that they never get to come to small group on Wednesdays because they always have cheer practice or whatever. What would that look like? Could we set that up, and would it be effective, and would they feel like they're engaged? And a lot of those probably going to be like trial and error when we're able to be back in. But that was one of my first thoughts, is instantly jumping to thinking about those students that just can never seem to make it because of schedules. As frustrating as that excuse can be for us as youth ministers at times, I think as a youth minister, I would love my best weapon to be like, well, we have something for that. We have something for you, even if you can't make it. So.
Yeah, I had one of my youth do their homework while they're at youth for the first time. It was really weird.
So when we were putting our online strategy together, Braden Bishop is my youth ministry associate, we didn't want to put anything in the virtual space that we weren't willing to continue indefinitely. And so we spent a whole lot of time and thought in, okay, we're going to put these during the times they're normally due times, but that means that we have to have enough volunteers in place when we go back that one of us could continue to run the online space. So we're planning to continue an online Sunday school class at 9:45 indefinitely. We're planning to have an online virtual small group that meets indefinitely, so that all of the kids on Sunday night or whatever will always have that experience. So we didn't want to start something that we weren't going to continue indefinitely. And we're also trying to do that as a church at Grace Avenue, right? Let's not start something that we're not willing to continue, so that if we end up in a crisis like this again, our online presence isn't this rush to be online, which is what it was for most of us, but a thoughtful provocative way of connecting that can continue on long past the time that COVID-19 is gone and we're dealing with the next crisis. So.
For sure. That's great. Thanks, y'all.
This is kind of a different topic altogether, but I know that the last 2 weeks, I feel like I have had more contact with parents than I've had in such a long time. I'm wondering if you guys are doing anything specifically for parents. I know sometimes we talk about doing family stuff, but I feel like I have this captured audience. Captured is a really scary word. I shouldn't use that. I have this opportunity, and I'm wondering if you guys are doing anything to kind of take advantage of that.
I started a weekly check-in Zoom with the parents. So I did that last Thursday night. Had probably 8 parents jump in. And, you know, I made sure to like be very clear, like I have no agenda other than to just check in and see how you guys are doing. You know, I've talked to your students, I've listened to them, you know, say how their souls are doing throughout this. And like, I'm genuinely just wanting to hear from them. I want to hear how they're doing. I want to hear how they think their kids are doing. And, you know, try to then bridge a little bit of that misunderstanding for them of where their students are. Because I think a lot of our parents don't understand how much anxiety these students carry, especially through a pandemic. So I was really encouraged by our first session. And so excited to do again, potentially even thinking, so I'm doing one on Thursday evenings, but I've even thought there may be some parents that would love to do it at like a 9 a.m. over coffee kind of thing. And so I may offer a second one just to try to catch all that I can catch. That's where we're at with it.
So we're kind of doing the same thing. Last week I started doing like and so far it's not a once a week. Right now we're going to probably do it every other week, but where we just have a time with the parents. And one of my moms asked last week if we could make it moms and wine and just have a chance for them to just vent. And I was like, yeah, I like wine. I mean, Jesus turned water into wine. Let's do it. And so just giving them like an open space to be able to vent how they're feeling has been helpful. I have a handful of parents who are also teachers. So they're extra frustrated because they're teaching their students and then they're teaching their children. And they're just not having a chance to stop. And so that is something that we have found helpful, because I think our parents forget that we're also their pastors. We're not just their children's pastors. And so I think that that's been helpful, is that we've been able to, at least and what I'm feeling is I've been able to remind them that I'm here for them just as much as I'm here for their children. And so we're looking at probably doing a once every other week, or maybe 1 week in the evening, 1 week in the morning, to help with people's schedules. Because I like the idea of coffee at 9. Joel, I think that is a really good idea. So I think it's just keeping that open line of communication with their parents to remind them that we're their pastor too.
I'm working right now, literally like working on this right before this, on adding just a little parents corner to our weekly email, where we can just like share an article with them, you know, a different article each week, that we think might help, and then they can use it or not use it, but looking at giving them resources. And then I like the idea of a check-in. We'll probably start doing that. We've done that with our adult volunteers. We've checked in with them some. A lot of them are teachers and they volunteer with us, which is awesome and insane. But yeah, checking in with them. We'll probably expand that to offer that to all of our parents, and just give them a chance to be in community with each other, without their kids as well.
I'm putting together a video, just a short, like 5-minute video. Just recaps what happened Sunday night. I don't know how involved, or, you know, if you can hear it in the next room or whatever. that parents are about what's going on Sunday nights with Zoom, but I wanted to at least bring them into that conversation too, give them some ideas of things they can start conversations about with their kids, just to expand the audience for what we're talking about on Sunday nights.
One of the things that Joseph asked us to think about last week as we were wrapping up our call, and he just added it to the chat, was talk about summer plans. And so how we were approaching summer right now. I know for me, a lot of our trips are kind of like all of our mission trips are in June, and most are probably going to make a call some point around mid-April on whether those are still happening or not for June, and then probably the middle of May for anything that's happening then in July. Right now, I'm trying to just leave the hope out there for as long as I can. That's how I would hate to just, I hated already having to, cancel our spring retreat. And, to be able to have to share that news in the midst of all that's already going on kind of sucked. And so that's how I'm approaching summer right now, is just holding on to as much hope that we will be able to have some kind of summer like we had planned right now.
I'll speak to it. I will wait until the absolute last possible moment to cancel anything in the summer. Like maybe even the day before kind of stuff. That's drastic. Probably not the day before, but right now the thought of a summer trip and the mission trip is some of the only things that are keeping my kids going, my youth going. They're desperate for some sense of normalcy and just a little bit of hope. And if I were to take that away in any form or fashion, I don't know what their mental health would look like. It's like literally all that's keeping them going. So, Joseph, I think to answer your question a little bit more detail, I'm doing all of it. I'm still planning for a full summer schedule, but I'm also looking at like what a modified like mission trip might look like, because it's probably not really going to be, even in June or July, a good thing to put 120 kids all sleeping together in a gym space. So what does it look like to run a mission trip that's local, where we gather outside and people go in small groups in cars to work on maybe a home, and then they come back and they worship, but then they go sleep and eat at their own houses, right? So I'm looking at lots of different modified. I have backup plans to my backup plans, but right now I still have plans. My plan is not to cancel anything in the summer unless we really have to. So I don't know if that's helpful or not helpful, but we're still going forward with a full schedule at this point, and we'll modify it if we have to, but I'll wait until the last possible moment to do that.
We're doing a similar thing, Christopher, keeping our schedule the same so far, and then talking about if we had to change it, what would it look like? We do our mission trips through like organizations and groups outside of just us. And so far those organizations have told us that we're still on. So we're kind of waiting on them. But what we're talking about right now is we're kind of worried about asking parents to pay for it. Because we know that more than ever, a lot of families are going to be in a space where they're not able to afford it or not comfortable paying that money. And so we're in conversations with the church and with the organizations about modifying payment schedules, or if it comes down to it, even doing something more local, so that we can still have a mission experience, but we aren't asking families to pay quite as much money when we're in this kind of strange time. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
I have a slightly different problem in that I opened registration for the summer mission trips up in November. So everybody's kind of like, I have like 35, 40 kids that have already paid, but all their parents have forgotten about it. So I have this money, and then if we have to modify or do something less, I have to decide like what kind of refund we give. So, and if somebody were to message us and say like, hey, remember that money that we gave you? We would obviously refund that. But so far we're only 3 weeks into this thing. And It has not significantly impacted a lot of our congregation financially yet. I think it will, but it hasn't yet.
So this summer for us is a bigger trip, and so we are flying to California. Maybe not, who the heck knows. So I'm kind of in the same boat where I'm just waiting to hear from SSP, and because right now their board decided that they're still going with everything, but with how crazy things started in California, like I don't know that I'm comfortable taking my kids there, and I don't know that parents will be comfortable me taking their kids there. So I've already started trying to plan how to do something more local, or something like that. So I'm just trying to keep a really close eye on it. And the money thing is just, that's what stresses me out the most, is like taking the money and then having to give it back. And then also we were supposed to have a huge fundraiser at the end of April to kind of help with youth missions and stuff like that. And obviously we're having to cancel it. So I'm kind of along the same lines as you, Sarah, is like just worried about how families are going to be paying for this and everything like that, and making sure we have the right kind of funds for our students and everything like that. So that's kind of, I want to wait till the last possible minute, but also we would have to cancel flights. We'd have to cancel the van rentals that we've got in California. Like there's just so much that is riding on this. And so that's a lot of my frustration of the unknown, is that all of this stuff I feel like I need to get done now, but I can't figure that out now because who the heck knows, you know, what June is even going to look like. So, so I am trying to start looking at more local kind of stuff. So that way, because Christopher, I think you're right. Like a lot of my kids are really looking forward to mission trip. This is something that they love doing. And so taking that away from them right now before we can even know for sure what it's going to look like, I think wouldn't be the best thing. But also just being mindful of all the logistics and all of that stuff that goes into planning it. So I'm a little stressed out about mission trip with these flights and everything like that. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Can I ask, do we have any idea about camp or anything yet? I mean, when is that going to be called? Because we're kind of in the same boat, Maggie. Like, we don't want to like cancel summer activities, but at the same time, I will in no way jeopardize the safety of our kids. And so I'm concerned because money has already been paid in places, and like we're going on a mission trip with like 2 other churches, and that all factors into like decisions that are being made. And so, I mean, I've got kids going to camp. So what does that look like?
So yeah, Joseph, you go for it.
Yeah, so we are waiting a couple more weeks to sort of see how this all plays out. The date we've sort of set is April 15th. That's kind of like the loose date for making a decision. You know, it's interesting. So, you know, churches have a little bit more flexibility because you're working with a smaller group of people, mostly volunteers. Like we have to hire staff. We've got to hire, you know, people for our kitchen. You know, we've unfortunately we've had to lay off all of our Bridgeport staff except for Caleb and Bo because we just don't have the funds to keep paying, and we want those people to be able to collect unemployment and do the things that they need to do for their families to make sure that they're taken care of. So this year, unlike a lot of, you know, even more so than other years, there's a time that we need to ramp up that we just might not have, and we don't have the luxury of waiting until the last minute to make those decisions. And so we're looking at April 15th. And there's a couple different, you know, sort of things we're looking at. There's you know, we cancel everything. There's we go with camp as it's planned. And then there's like this modified schedule that maybe we can't do anything in June, but maybe we can do something in July. And maybe we have to switch things up and maybe not do camp the way that we have in the past. And so, you know, thinking through all of those different options. I'll tell you, for the money part, it's just as big of a deal, if not bigger, for us because we've got a ton of money that has been paid in deposits. When over 900 people pay $50 the pop or more, you know, that adds up, and that's money that we were counting on having to, you know, go through this whole thing. And so I think one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to offer people who have already paid the opportunity yes, we'll give you your refund if you need that $50 back. Like you will have it, no questions asked. But also realize that when we talk about small businesses struggling, Bridgeport is a small business, very much so. And so if there's any way that you can donate that $50 to the work that we're doing, it will go a long way into making sure that the effects that we're feeling from the groups that have already canceled, that are canceling. Basically every group from now until summer has canceled at this point, which is a lot of lost revenue for our camps. If there's any way that you can donate that money. And I feel like it's sort of similar, again, like Chris is saying, even if you're not feeling it right now, at some point our churches are going to start feeling the financial pinch. And for those families who maybe have already paid something to go on mission trip and don't necessarily need that money back, maybe some of that money can go towards helping somebody else who hasn't paid and who can't pay do something locally or help the ministry as a whole. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about. We'll definitely, I'll hop on here once we have a decision. We'll put it out throughout the conference and let everybody sort of know what that decision is going to be. But yeah, it's definitely something that we're all sort of facing and looking at this point.
And I appreciate that, because I've already gotten a handful of questions from parents about mission trip, but also about camp, because I've got kids going to camp. And so I just was kind of curious where that was. And I just got a text message from our staff that Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has postponed school till May 4th as of right now. I think we all kind of assumed that was going to happen, but hearing it in such an unofficial capacity, it brings a little bit of anxiety, because this is just continuing to weigh so heavy.
I was on some, I want to affirm some of what I'm hearing here. I was on some consultation calls last week. I'll just kind of hit some highlights here. I would advise against summer interstate travel right now. If that can help relieve pressure and make your decisions, I would advise against interstate travel even in the summer. Probably the summer reality looks like freedom, but fear and wondering what's happening, which would mean that you would want to keep your group within a 2 to 2.5 hour radius so that you could mitigate if something happened in the community you were serving, or there was something happening outbreak-wise in your group. So I would advise to plan something local within a 2.5 hour radius. Here's what that does. That if you start to plan now towards a lean experience, it could mean that instead of driving for the hoop all or nothing and having to cancel, that you could be one of the few trips that makes, because you planned lean and you kept your costs low and you kept your planning low, and it doesn't break anything if you have to cancel that moment. So I certainly agree with, keeping things up until that last day. Keeping things up until that last day, though, as long as it's something that could go through, as long as you felt safe and felt like that everyone was going to be safe. If you could feel better about that, the advantage of you having one of the programs that might make up against a whole lot of canceled camps and activities beyond the church world. So that would just be kind of what I'm hearing in some of those circles, is to keep things really local, to keep things on a shorter schedule, to keep your costs low. And Christopher said this already, to keep people in smaller groups, almost survivor style, plan. Like let's have these teams, and they compete against each other in fun activities and service activities. And you can kind of manage that based out of your campus. Another thing that could work is if you were planning that way and things were to take a positive turn, but you had camp centers, especially like Bridgeport, Glen Rose, those that are more local, that have had to cancel already for good reason, you might be able to stay with them. There's a chance there, right? So that you could give them that business, and that you still stay local. So I think really narrowing your planning locally now gives you a greater chance of not having to cancel everything. You may still have to cancel the trip that was planned for your own backyard. We don't know. But I mean, seriously, the interstate travel is the greatest concern, because the crackdown that's happening now from state to state, and what's happening in New Mexico right now on Indian reservations. I mean, there's just some crazy concerns about interstate travel. And so maybe that's how you relieve some of that anxiety, is just make a decision now to start scaling back and plan something, but plan it lean, so that you're offering some sort of activity if you're able to. And what you're canceling isn't something that's just massive, that's going to require a lot of money and a lot of heartbreak. That's what I'm hearing and collecting and talking through a lot. So for what it's worth.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Bart. And I think that that's just what I'm struggling with, is when do I make that call of canceling the big thing? Because this was already supposed to be an international trip year for them. But when I came in, I didn't feel comfortable enough to plan that and everything. So I was already scaling back from what they were expecting. So if I have to then again scale back even more, I want to make sure that I do that well. But I mean, I hear you and I agree with you. Like, I have been already feeling, even if we get the all good by June, I don't know that I still want to take kids. And that was something we talked about at our director meeting for camp last night, is that even if we get the all good for camp, there may be parents who don't want to send their kid to a camp full of hundreds of kids, right? Like, there's going to be that fear and anxiety still. And so I think that's just what I'm struggling with, is when do I make that call of, we're just going to scale down mission trip a lot, and so I'm going to go ahead and cancel the plane tickets and the van rentals and, give you your money back or not, or whatever, so I don't know. That's really kind of where I'm struggling. But I really appreciate what you said, Bart, and just sharing what you've been hearing and everything like that. But I think you're totally right. I think just traveling further than our own little radius here is just kind of not smart
Well,
or safe.
my tendency is yours too, right? Is that tendency to think about the safety. I mean, and that's what we're supposed to do, is to think about the safety of our own, of our own folks. But when you reverse it, for me, it's a game changer. When you start wondering if your group was to be the contagion for someone else, and you think about the umbrella of our witness causing harm in the name of a mission trip, that's what gives me the energy to start ramping down. Not to say that the safety of our own folks isn't tantamount, but look, I mean, the desperation when sports camps and church camps, when everything shuts down and we're still hanging on in there, your families are going to be more prone to say, sure, go ahead, it'll be okay. But what if we were the ones causing harm somewhere else? Because it's our young people who are likely to be carriers without symptoms for the longest time. That's what gave me great pause. So.
I do think,
For
though,
sure, yeah.
June to July, there's a lot of difference between those 2 months in my book as we're looking at it. And some of this just depends on how May happens, right? I think I like the April 15th for June. That makes a lot of sense of a decision point. But for me, if it's July or even August, I think we got a little more lead time to figure out. And some of this, I mean, just comes down to practical, what money we get back and how we get our, how do we make sure families in church don't lose money in this, I think is really what's driving underneath everything.
So
I got kicked off. Oh, sorry, Mackenzie, go ahead.
We actually scheduled, so we have a spring break trip that we do instead of doing a mission trip over the summer. And we actually had to cancel it the Thursday before we left on that Sunday, because it was supposed to happen in March. And so I don't know your parents, obviously, but all of our parents that we called were like, yes, that makes sense. The money thing really wasn't something that they brought up. And it was something that we said afterwards. We were like, hey, if you want a credit for the next trip, awesome, because then you don't have to worry about, like, I know for us, the online processing fee was we were just like,
whatever. And so that decision obviously came down because schools were closing and that kind of thing. But we went through and we talked through because we were going down to Rio Conference. And so we talked with Rio Conference. We talked with the church that we were supposed to stay at. We talked with our exec team at the church. And so obviously a lot of factors go into that. And so know that like you're not making that decision on your own, which at that point was very frustrating because I was like, I just need a decision for my kids and for my parents. But it also was pretty comforting to know that you had that like support of all of the people that are kind of on your checklist. And so, yeah, it was a bummer. Like the students were upset. I for sure cried in the office. Like I was very upset about it, but it was one of those things where parents understood. And I think that in this situation, they also will understand if, you know, their sports camps are getting canceled, their other camps are getting canceled. You know, if we're not worshiping in person, of course, we're not going to go on a mission trip together. So just to, I don't know if that's a word of comfort, but like our parents were very understanding of like, this was the right call, even though it stinks in that moment.
Yeah, thanks, Mackenzie. That does help. And I do think, you know, I think all of our parents, like in the midst of this, would totally understand, you know, because we're trying to keep their kids safe, you know, and but yeah, it's just that added stress of having that responsibility of canceling just one more thing, you know. But Bart, I think that's a good word to just start planning a smaller, more local thing and have that be what we offer and everything. But just tough, y'all. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, us being able to safely execute some sort of trip kind of activity may be more important than what that trip kind of activity is. You know, if you're the only thing that made, you know, at that point, and you being able to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do if it's local, if it's cheap, kids that normally wouldn't have been able to be involved in that. I mean, it could be a real game changer. And like Paul was saying, you know, push that more towards a July, August, where there's a little more hope. Cool things could come of this. But I'll date myself. I was supposed to go serve as a teenager in a mission trip for the Summer Olympics in Atlanta. And the night we were supposed to leave was when the bomb went off in Centennial Park. And I still carry some scars from that trip being canceled, you know, because I was like, no, we gotta go, you know, like we gotta go. And it turned out to be not such a big deal, but I remember that night and I'll never forget it. And so that experience still informs me and informs my ministry. So as much as there's disappointment, our young people are learning something about what it means to be connected and what it means to be a community. I did.
Yeah, I just want to speak to something Mackenzie said, like your students aren't going to be the only ones to suffer by canceling this. Like I know that we have an emotional connection to these trips. I know like for 4 years at Prosper, we have been working to establish this culture of serving in ministry and serving in missions because it didn't exist before I got there. And we've had the highest registrations for mission trips that we've ever had this year. And so you're just like, oh, my heart is breaking at the idea of having to cancel. I just have to, still be able to celebrate that the culture is turning that around and be just as excited and amped and ready to sell whatever it is we're going to do for our kids. You know, it may be lesser than the trip to California, but we still got to be, 100%, on it for our kids and selling it and invested.
Yeah, and just to add to all of this, but if anybody wants help, I do local and cheap mission trips all the time just because of the accessibility for students. So if anybody wants to brainstorm or shoot ideas off on just what to do kind of local or how to do, I do a lot of home repair stuff. I'm happy to talk to anybody about things that they might want to do that are local or home repair related or things like that. My biggest fear right now actually is that the volunteers that I regularly count on for the summer who have not been working now are not going to be able to go with us. So that's part of the challenge that I think we're going to face this summer too, is are we even going to have a critical mass of adults enough to do what we want to do? So if you didn't already have that fear, I've given it to you now. So welcome to that as well. So.
You know, the flip side of this, like, is that we might actually be sending out like the least entitled group of seniors into like the next phase of life than we ever have before, because they realize now that like there are things that are greater than, like, not to belittle the importance of those things, but also like we do have sometimes a problem within the church with people feeling like they are owed a trip to somewhere, or that they are owed because they've gone to church for the last 4 years or whatever, that they are owed something. And so could be one of those things that like in the midst of this, after all of this, we enjoy and appreciate community more, but also like we realize just how important those big events that we do get to have really are.
Cool. Well, unless anybody wants to jump in with any more summer related things, I want to be respectful of all of your time, and we've already shot past that hour mark. And so I do want to just close with any thoughts about Holy Week and Easter, anything you guys are excited about. I heard some of you guys talking about you were excited what has been coming out for your out of your staff meetings. And so I'd love to hear some of the cool things you guys have planned coming up for Holy Week and Easter.
To be honest, our staff hasn't really, at least like for program staff, hasn't talked about Easter yet. But the one thing I can throw out that we're trying to do is this like digital palm procession idea, where we've literally asked families to find some sort of green plant type thing in their house, and shoot a video of them and their family kind of waving the palm branches. And it sounds silly, but it's something, and I think we're gonna compile a video together. And you know, I think we've all been doing worship through Facebook or whatever, but allowing our members to see each other's faces and not just our staff is a huge blessing that we're looking forward to. So that's something that we can do. If you need to scale it down and just do a youth version of that, I think it could be a really cool lesson.
Yeah, a lot of our stuff is video. Obviously, we're doing kind of the same thing with the palms, and then we're asking a couple of our key like students to record a "He is Risen" video, and our communications people are gonna put it all together. But our big emphasis throughout this whole thing, like obviously we're having student programming and we're doing all of that, but we're also trying to get our families to do worship together. And so we didn't want to do anything to take away from that. And so the video was a great way to have students in worship while also having their families worship together for Easter. And we kind of did this fun like Easter checklist of plan a Easter egg hunt and still get your outfit ready, because we know that's a big deal for some of our students, and different stuff like that, but still making the emphasis be like Easter's still happening, it's just going to look different, and we're trying to still connect with you and see your face.
Yeah, our church halved the order of palms, but still ordered palm branches, and they're going to be putting them out for people to come like pick up and have those at home. And we've done the resurrection eggs where people can come pick that up. And so I think we're just kind of looking at ways to kind of like you were saying, Mackenzie, like encourage families to do the stuff together that everyone would normally be doing in the church building. And then just encouraging everyone to post pictures or send them to us so that we can put them out there so everyone can see each other's faces and what other families are doing in this time that we're used to being able to celebrate together. And so now where it's kind of like, what does Easter celebration look like, from our living rooms? So we're kind of still talking about that, but that's just something we're doing. We encouraged everyone to find something green to wave around, but we're also offering the palms if people are able to swing by the church and grab a couple for their family.
Yeah, we sent out a palm branch coloring sheet for them to color, and then for the kids to color and then cut out. And we're going to do the same thing, kind of have them shoot a video of the kids run around the house with the palm branches, and then kind of compile it along with our music ministry with some kind of Hosanna anthem, and be able to add that to our worship.
We're doing something really similar. We are sending out like a cutout of a palm, like a cartoon palm, and the kids can color it, and then we're going to do like a video collage that's going to go out on social media. It'll also run through hopefully on the slides on Sunday morning, since it's Palm Sunday. And then we're also doing a virtual Easter egg hunt, which our children's director is putting that together. And I'm happy to send you that information. I sent it to Maggie last week because she was looking for some ideas for that. So our children's director is sending bunny mail. So she created a Google Doc where people can put their address, and she sends them bunny mail. So it's from the Easter Bunny. And she's creating the cards, I think, on her Cricut and making it really cute and fun and bright. And so our children's director is really on top of her game when it comes to Easter. I, on the other hand, am really struggling on what Holy Week is going to look like as far as youth goes, because we were going to do a Stations of the Cross, and they were going to be able to walk through the church and through the grounds and through the campus and do the Stations of the Cross. But I'm looking at what it would look like to do that virtually. And I know there's something on the conference website that could be helpful. So, but anything else that you guys have ideas for would be helpful.
I want to jump in and plug. Emma has done the work of setting up a Google Doc or Google Drive full of different documents for different things, all of which that once you guys get in there, you can add stuff to, and then feel free to take anything that you find in there as well. I think she posted a link in the comments. I'm sure if you reach out to her, she'd be happy to share that. But as you guys have these ideas, feel free to jump in there and share them, because to have all that stuff in one place, it makes every one of our lives easier and more convenient than sending 1,000 different emails in different weeks. So also just wanted to plug one other resource. Michelle Moore, who's the the youth and young adult coordinator for the Arkansas conference, has sent me their website with all of the things that they're compiling. And so I posted that on the Facebook group as well. A ton of great stuff to sift through in there as well.
Just real quick, talk about Holy Week and stuff. There's a few activities that we have a big fall festival, and some of the things we're just moving them to the fall festival, making the theme of the fall festival be all the things we missed because of COVID-19, and just have a few of those activities in the fall, even though they're maybe Easter themed or something, just to allow us to catch up.
We're going full crazy on Palm Sunday, in that we're doing a Palm Sunday parade starting at 9:00, inviting families to decorate their cars and come to the church and go through 9 different celebration stations. We've emphasized that no one is allowed to roll down their windows or get out of their car, but they'll just see different staff people along at 10 different stations, and they kind of go from celebration to sacred. So you start celebrating, then you end with a blessing by one of the pastors from 6 feet away. And then you just take your car home and then get ready for worship. So we're going for a full-on Palm Sunday celebration, get-together kind of deal. We'll see how it goes. I'll be able to report back next week. And then as far as Holy Week, like Monday, Thursday, Good Friday stuff, we're not doing anything specifically youth-related for that. We will be sending youth links to what our church is doing as a whole as far as services that they'll be streaming and things like that. But that's what we do normally. We'll do, of course, some special things for Sunday night youth, just Bible study related. But we have historically done an Easter sunrise service with the youth. And so what I started yesterday was I took the script for that, I broke it into little chunks, and I sent that out to our seniors. We have a pretty big senior class, about 25 or so of them that attend regularly on Sunday nights. And I asked them to each go into their backyard, preferably in the morning, but like, I can't really tell light-wise when they're out there or not, and to film themselves. We went with vertical instead of horizontal, saying those lines. Then they put those in a Google Drive that is going to go to our media guy, who is going to splice all of that together into a sunrise service that will be premiered live on Facebook at 7 o'clock on Easter Sunday. So still a youth-led service, because it's always been a youth-led service. Still have youth leading the service, just in a different way. So that's kind of where we're at.
Well, I really appreciate everyone sharing, and just I have, these meetings have been really good for me each week, and so I hope they are for you guys, and I hope they continue to be. I've heard multiple times. I'll report back next week, or I'll talk to you about, so I plan on doing these indefinitely, even once normal life comes back. I think this is just good to be in connection with you guys in this way. Unless there's anything else anyone wants to jump in, I'll close this with a prayer, and then I'll let Maggie choose who's doing our devotion next week.
Just a quick question, Bart, could you tell us again, like, an expectation on timeline for that mental health pastoral care crisis stuff?
Yeah. And these are going to be modules that we've offered before, but refreshers, but we are hoping for, hang on, just lost that. We're hoping I'm hoping for early the week after Easter. And we're also hoping to kind of build a couple of these in, something on crisis counseling, looking at something on anxiety, but then also looking at some practical things, some just in the downtime, right? Some organization pieces, some things like that. We'll splash it out, but the feedback we're getting for the most part is just that everybody's kind of in the mode until Easter. We're kind of looking for after that. Thanks.
All right. Let's pray real quick. Gracious God, we just thank you for this time. We thank you for the conversation. We thank you for the creative ways that you are working in and around our ministries in this unique time and in these unique ways. And we ask that you just continue to pour out your Holy Spirit with us as we continue to do your ministry in the world. Keep us safe and healthy and sane and not too stir crazy. Remind us in the still quiet moments that you are there with us. That's in your son's name we pray. Amen. All right, Maggie, who's up?
I would love it if Christopher would lead us in a devotional next week.
Good, Chris?
I think the rule of this is you're not allowed to say no. Is that the way that it works?
I think so.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get to say no to Charles last week. So.
Yeah, that was my understanding. All right.
Yeah.
But hey, I'll send you this background so you can have it when you do your devotional too.
That's very thoughtful.
All right, y'all have a great week, guys.